Once you have selected an activity or a part in your business process that you would like to implement using generative AI, it's time to start experiments. And by experiments, I mean lab experiments with you in the smallest, most isolated environment to build a very dirty, very quick prototype whose only purpose is to prove the business value. We are not focused on interfaces. We are not focused on showing it to your colleagues, showing it to anybody else. It's only for you to sit there and figure out if something is on a business level viable or not. And therefore, we are looking into modeling processes, translating that into a prompt or a series of prompts, and trying it out in isolation on some data that might not be business critical, but something that mirrors your real case. And to do that, we are going really process driven. You have probably already created your process model. Now let's zoom in this process model into that very specific part of the process that you would like to use generative AI on. So for us, we selected the extracting the key point activity and choosing a project planner and choosing an engineer. Our goal is now to translate it into a prompt and try it out in isolation and make in the end a decision if that approach that we are taking is viable or not. Therefore, we have to look into inputs, into outputs, and into the task at hand. For inputs, we have to talk about context. Case-specific context and static context. So imagine later you will not write the same you will not write always a prompt that does the same thing for every instance that you have. There might be parts of this prompt that have to be tweaked according to some context. That's what we call case-specific context. So context that changes from case to case. For example, in our example with the engineering company and the garage, is the exact information that you would like to have from a blueprint. This is always different in a case. Because if it is a garage, you want to basically know the foundations and the materials and the size of the door. But if you get an inquiry about building a house, you don't usually have a garage door as the door to the house. You usually have a normal house door. So that's context that is then different from the case for let's build a house versus let's build and make the blueprints for a garage. However, you always have also static context, so criteria for that in each instance of the business process, you are the same. In our example, you would like to know where this garage needs to be located, or where that object that needs to be built needs to be located. Doesn't really matter if it's a garage or if it's a house. You need to know where it is. You need to know the type of building, and you need to know the general area, you know the grounds, so that you know with what materials you combine. These are input context information that you have to carefully think about. Okay, where's the case-specific context coming from, and what static context do I have? And build a prompts and pipelines according to that. When we talk about the output, we have to think about the form and representation. So how is the output of the task being presented? Do you want bullet points in professional language? Do you want to have a pre-formulated email? Do you want to have something different? And also the type of input, the type of output that you would like to have. Is it only one email or is it an essay? So presentation also says it's language, it's voice, it's complexity of language, and the type of output. What is the medium that you are targeting? And then in the end, the task is the what that needs to be done. In our example here, it must be extraction, summary, and writing of that information that can be forwarded to the project planner. And these dimensions you can relate back to the good ingredients of a prompt. We will look deeper into prompt engineering, but all of the prompt engineering techniques do somewhat address these four dimensions. And what we're doing in innovation, in our innovation process, we are basically translating these information that we gathered, input, output, task, we translate that into an ingredient of a prompt to craft a prompt. And crafting a prompt is exactly what we are doing now. So let's have a look in what our most simple interface is to try something out. And that's if we are going for generative text, an interface like ChatGPT, because you can do here prompts. You can also do several parts of prompts. You say here's my email as an input. Dear Mr. Engineer, I hope that email finds you well. This is our input context. That's our case-specific input context, because for every other case, we have always a different email that we get from our customers as an inquiry. I want to build a new garage, and I'm planning it in 1234 Elm Street in New Jersey. It's 25 feet by 20 feet. I'm considering to reinforced concrete. And help me, please. And then this is all still context, and then you write the task. Extract the key points of the inquiry and bullet points, focusing on the technical specifications and material. And then you run that prompt in ChatGPT, and you look into what happens and what you get as an output. So this is the point where you always have to think about the quality and the value that the output of that prompt provides you. Is that sufficiently for you to go further, or is it not? Do you need something else? Do you need to change something else? And also this is an iterative process where you go step by step into over these things. And I got here as an answer, it was an inquiry about the statistics calculation. It's a single story garage structure. It's approximately 25 feet by 20 feet, reinforced concrete, requested, and they request advice. And it's an inquiry mostly focused about the associated costs of the service. And if that is viable, then you already found, okay, look like I got at least once an example running. Do it a couple of more times to see how it is how it reacts in different other situations. We are not right now focusing on reproducibility. That's part of the next step, but look into viability. Is it viable? Is the business value created for you impactful? Yes or no? And that's really the only decision that you have to make at that point. And if you, after a certain amount of iterations that you go over it, it's still not viable, then don't force it. Yeah, that if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. But if you say, okay, that's at least, I see there's some business value, let's look how we could integrate it and productize it in our existing IT infrastructure in our company, then you would proceed to the next step.